And I'm feeling a little pressure here. I appreciate that introduction that Robin just read. My mom wrote it, and she would be proud. Mom's still with us at 92. I'm feeling a little pressure because I got a fair number of alums. I got a trustee in the room, and any number of students. I don't feel any pressure from you students who were there when Susie and I were. I'm just proud of you, really proud. Louisville's a real sweet spot for Center College, and you all need to know that. We come up here and get some of the brightest and best of the young people from these high schools every year. Been doing it for a long time, and we continue to do it. It still is as American cities go, and we now have students every year coming to us from 45 states, 10 or 12 foreign countries, so we're really a very diverse international kind of place. But Louisville, in terms of the American city where we come get some really bright naval students every year, it's Louisville, Kentucky. So I feel very privileged to be a part of your event today. I open my remarks by claiming that I remain optimistic about the future of this nation and this Commonwealth. Abigail Adams, First Lady of the United States from 1797 to 1801 and married to John Adams, second U.S. President, was a woman of remarkable courage and stamina, often choosing to lift up her husband during his times of trial. Her 1779 letter of encouragement to him seems particularly apropos for these times, and I quote, "These are times in which a genius would wish to live. It is not in the still calm of life or in the repose of a Pacific station that great character is formed. The habits of a vigorous mind are formed in contending with difficulties. Great necessities call out great virtues. When a mind is raised and animated by the scenes that engage the heart, then those qualities which would otherwise lay dormant wake into life and form the character of the hero and the statesman." Close quote. And on those days when you need to have your spirits lifted, I invite you to read and learn more about one of Kentucky's favorite sons, Abraham Lincoln. Center College welcomed a magnificent sculpture of Mr. Lincoln to our campus last fall in 2012, and he stands as a constant inspiration to our entire community. Created by Louisville's own Ed Hamilton, Senator Lincoln came to be admired and revered well after his assassination in 1865. He has much to tell those of us living in these times. I commend his thinking, his courage, his style of leadership to you, but that is a conversation for another day. Our nation, with its many challenges, continues to be the envy of all free nations, remaining, quote, "a shining city upon a hill whose beacon light guides freedom-loving people everywhere," close quote. This quote, attributed by most to former President Reagan, has been effectively used by Democrats and Republicans alike for decades, because it's not about party, it's about the welfare of this great nation, and this metaphor remains our guide and inspiration, true even in the darkest of times. Now, turning to my remarks, and by the way, before I do, on a light note, the woman who's not a Center graduate, who was introduced, who does the paddle thing, I've done that. There's two things I've done that really are quite remarkable. I've actually done that paddle thing in a gym, and it worked. And I've also opened up a window on a door. You know how I always sit on the exit row, and they always come by, and the flight attendant will say, "Now, I need to tell you how to do that." And sometimes I think I don't appear real attentive, and she'll say to me, "Sir, you need to pay attention." And I tell her, I've done it. I've taken those windows out, so I know how this works, and I've done the paddle, so I'm feeling well prepared for today's assignment. I've also put an item. I'm going to have some of my colleagues, a trustee, and some former students help me pass these around a little bit. It's my last part. It's a report on Center College in 180 seconds, and without apology, it's a commercial, straight up. But for those of you who want it, I want to encourage you to take it home. It tells a story about an amazing place. This college that I serve, it is a remarkable place, and the difference it makes in young people's lives should be and is a point of pride in America and certainly in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. You need to know more about what we do for the young people who come our way. With regard to our nation's American institutions of higher education remain the envy of the world and its students. Even with the problems we face, and they are substantial, America owns the enterprise of higher education. This said, the Academy must address the issue of rising cost of attendance, which is a real threat to access, the threat of inflexibility and unwillingness to change, stifling creativity and productivity, the waste and destruction associated with competition, unhealthy competition for faculty, staff, and students. It represents an arms war of sorts that gobbles up dollars by the hundreds of millions, and it's unsustainable. And we need to be sure that we offer a balanced educational experience that is higher, not just longer and relevant all at once. And we need to revive our commitment to quality and learning, not just credentialing and serving up degrees that do little to prepare young women and men for lives of work and service. The good news is that America can remain king or queen of the educational hill, if you will, but we must stop living off our history of success and high achievement. When we break to our question and answer, I will count on you having some questions or observations about this section. With regard to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I'm encouraged by the leadership that exists currently in our public and private colleges and universities. Our governor, even in these tight times, has remained resolute with his support of higher education. Our Council on Post-Secondary Education President, Bob King, is a seasoned professional who is leading well. Our private college president, Gary Cox, continues to do excellent work. The men and women who are in the presidencies of Kentucky's institutions have never been stronger, in my opinion. There are any number of changes in the presidencies here in Kentucky, but the new women and men being hired into these jobs impress me. So there are many reasons for us to be encouraged about the Commonwealth's future, but much work remains. Like the nation, we need to build on existing strength, look for ways to work more effectively and efficiently, imagine ways to assure access, and add quality. And I should comment on several aspects of the American Academy that threaten its future and, in my mind, are compromising the intellectual welfare of our colleges and universities. I have spoken and written at the national level about the financial model being broken in American higher education, independent, public colleges, and universities alike. I should call on one of you financial types to explain to the audience the rule of 7. I'm looking to be sure I'm seeing some nods. The rule of 7 is if you go up 7% a year, in 10 years you double your cost. If you go up 10% a year in 7 years, you double your cost. You go back and look at what's going on in American higher education over this last decade plus, it's frightening. And it is unsustainable. At Center Colleges, I've made a decision that we will go up no more, and I'd like to keep it at 2%. We're going to go up no more than 3% for the foreseeable future. That is a sustainable financial model. And that's not what I see being duplicated in much of America, and it's a problem. It threatens our welfare in terms of having the very best colleges and universities in this America. Let me say a word about the need for transparency. Poor leadership, as in telling half-truths and straight-out lying, has compromised leadership in our nation and our states and our communities and our colleges and universities too. The only fix is to correct the behavior and move forward in the direction of fuller transparency. As I tell folks at Center, I can keep a secret. I just don't have many. And some institutions that have systematically abandoned their commitment to teaching undergraduates. I'm going to repeat that one. This is a threat, in my opinion, to the American Academy, that there are many institutions that have abandoned their commitment to teaching undergraduates, driven in large measure by an unfettered commitment to research. We need research. We need undergraduates to be trained to go out and lead lives of research. But we must continue to train the young 18 to 22-year-olds, or regardless of their age, the ones who show up for a baccalaureate degree. We've got to double down and be sure that they are having an important educational experience in the classrooms across America. Too many places have stopped paying attention to quality and learning. Instead, they're offering up degrees and educational experiences that do little to prepare young women and men for lives of work and service, lives that will see them change jobs and even professions several times during their work life of 50 years plus. Did you hear that, Chris? You're going to work, all these young people are coming out of college now, forget this retiring at 62, it's going to be 70. It's going to be 75, health permitting. That's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. But that's the future that we're headed to as a nation. For those of you who have nodded off, let me wake you up. This next bullet is one that pertains to distortion. Now, who among you remembers Newton's third law of motion? Come on, one of you center graduates. Come on. Third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So we've got three distortions in American education right now, and we must attend to them. One is the threat of federal intervention at a level that is unhealthy. I think it's a good thing that our current President, Obama, is using the bully pulpit to encourage colleges and universities to do better, to do right, to be more accessible. That's the role that he should play, and he's doing that well. We don't need a whole lot more help from Washington. And I say that with all due respect. You remember that constitutionally, the educational experience is relegated to the states. And we need to be sure that we keep it that way. No offense, I'm neither Republican nor Democrat, so this isn't party affiliation for me. We just don't need a lot of help from the feds. And if Mitch McConnell were in the room, I'd take him on that. So actually, he's in my corner on that part. We got a problem with merit aid. I mentioned that earlier. Folks, some of you in the room who maybe come from Ivy League backgrounds, and you're thinking, well, no, we don't give merit aid at Princeton. Oh, yes, you do. You just call it something different. Merit aid threatens the American Academy. We give merit aid at Center College. So does every institution in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, including the publics. And by the way, it's not a bad thing. We have just got to find a way to throw a rope around it, or it will gobble up everything in sight. It'll steal away quality as we continue to give away more and more aid to students who might be able to afford to pay. It's a simple truth. We're working on this at Center College. We have not figured it out, but it represents a distortion. And for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when you bring distortion into the American Academy, as we have with the prospect of federal intervention and merit aid. Now here's the last one. This one will really get your attention. I believe that the increasing professionalism among colleges and universities that offer Division I intercollegiate athletic program represents a real threat to the long-term welfare of our nation's colleges and universities. The problem, again, is one of distortion. Jim Ramsey's a good friend. The athletic director seems like a good guy here at Louisville. I know Rick Pitino. I think he works hard to make a difference for good in the young men's lives that come his way. It's not their fault, gang. It is much larger than that. It's a difficulty, it's a distortion that threatens the American Academy as we know it. And we've got to get busy and figure out a way to bring it back into the role that it might play in the lives of students. I was not a Division III athlete. I played Division I football kind of when it was like Division III. And I had a wonderful experience. And the coaches were fairly paid, but not extravagantly. No one was. And we've missed the mark on that as a nation. I'm not blaming the University of Louisville. I'm not blaming our friends at the University of Kentucky or Ohio State. It's a giant tiger that got out of the cage, and it's going to do damage. It's already done damage, and it'll do more if we don't figure out a way to bring it back into play. So you might ask, what might we do, John? I contend that the best places, the ones with the brightest futures, checking my time because I know what happens at 1 o'clock, will be the ones that claim without apology that first-rate higher education is a national asset of considerable worth and that we are deserving of the nation's support, the state's support, and your support. We need to play the value proposition. We need to remind ourselves that we need to deliver the best experience that we can at the least price that we can make it possible for. That's a value, a basic value proposition that needs to come back in to the American Academy. We need to focus on outcomes. The students and their families have the right to know what will happen if they come to your place. And a lot of institutions are just sort of not getting around to that. We need to be more transparent with families about that. Angie will remember me talking about this any number of times at Center. We need to imagine partnerships heretofore unimagined. About 3 years ago, we gave up our teaching major. We still train a small number of teachers every year, and they go out and win awards at Center College. We connected a partnership with the University of Louisville and Vanderbilt, so our students would have two options. They go get their teaching degree either from the University of Louisville or Vanderbilt. Those are the kind of partnerships heretofore unimagined. And I could string off another 6 or 8 of them that we're working on at Center. The entire academy has to remain open to that. We need to imagine how technology can provide efficiency and effectiveness, both administrative and within the instructional program. We need to work unceasingly to expand our colleges and universities' reach and reputation, and do so without apology. Center College is a premier undergraduate college in all of America. What we do stands toe-to-toe with the best liberal arts colleges in the country. You all need to know that. You need to help us tell that story without apology. And we need to raise dollars for existing basic operating commitments and endowment. We need to do it at Center College, and any institution with which you're affiliated needs to do that as well. There's no end to the need to create more and more resources to take care of the basic commitments, not just the add-on stuff and the things that people might think they want to chase after, the basic commitments of the institution.